This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 604. Welcome in. It is Wednesday morning. I'm very proud of today's schedule. Today, I am recording this episode here. Then afterward, once this is out, I'll be recording the next episode, which will be the fantasy football episode for this week. And then another recording session, the third one today, we'll be recording later with Logan, finishing off doing the second half of the fantasy football episode today. A lot of blocks of recording today, a lot of stuff going on. I'm excited. We are breaking, so normally I do 5 episodes a week, roughly. This will be a 6th special episode. I wanted today to comment on basically every NFL team. In fact, it will be every NFL team. We're 6 weeks into the NFL season, and I want to kind of provide a point of reference. Like, how are things going? What's different than what we expected? How are my predictions working out? That kind of stuff. Just going through every team. I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't want it to be 2 hours. I can't imagine it will be. But I also do the math. You talk about every team for just a minute. That's already 32 minutes. There's 32 NFL teams. If we do 2 minutes, that's an hour. So I don't know how long this is going to be. Hopefully it's timely and not crazy long, but also hopefully I have enough to say that it's more than just like, Aaron Rodgers got hurt. That's it. But regardless, let's jump in. I want to talk about team number 1 today. The Miami Dolphins are 5-1. And to me, very clearly, the Dolphins are a Super Bowl favorite. They're incredible. They're the best offense in the NFL. I think their new defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, is turning out to be a huge addition for them. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua, what can you say? The offense is incredible. We know that. One thing that I love about the Dolphins, though, that doesn't get talked about enough to me is in the modern NFL, the running back position is a point of contention. A lot of people don't know how to pay running backs. A lot of people, the Giants pay one running back, Saquon Barkley, $10 million. If he gets hurt, they don't have a running back for a game. Josh Jacobs is the running back in the Raiders organization. They pay him about $10 million for 1 year. Miami found a really creative, interesting solution to the running back position. Rather than paying one guy a really sizable contract, they've kind of moneyballed it. I don't know how you would call this, but it's a really creative solution to me. They're paying 4 running backs about $6 million total. Not each, total. So Raheem Mostert's salary cap hit this year is $2.1 million. Devin Achane, his cap hit is less than $1 million. He's on a rookie contract. Jeff Wilson Jr. is getting about $2.2 million against the salary cap. Savon Ahmed, $1.4 million worth of a salary cap hit. So they've got 4 running backs. 2 of them are in the top 10 in rushing, Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane, who right now is on the injured reserve. But the Dolphins have found a way to have a really incredibly highly productive rushing attack while also not paying a single running back top-tier money. They spread the money out throughout 4 players. It's working incredibly well. And as you look around the league, I think everyone should copy their strategy. Do not pay a running back a second contract. I know that's awful to say, but if you can get a running back on a rookie contract like Devin Achane, get a lot out of him, and then let him move on and get paid somewhere else, that's the way to do it. And Miami right now is creating the blueprint how to run the ball really well and not spend a ton of money. I don't know that that's great for the running back position, but it is certainly working well for Miami, and every other team, if I were them, would look at what Miami's doing at the running back position and financially copy what they're doing, because for them, it's working great. Let's talk about Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills are 4-2. Their losses have been only by 1 score. They beat Miami, so Buffalo's a really good football team, I believe. But I will say, I think the window of opportunity for them to win a Super Bowl with the current group of players they have. They've got some young players, they've got some old players. Josh Allen obviously isn't going anywhere, although you paid Josh Allen a ton of money. And that means in the future, you're going to be hamstrung a bit with the ability to pay other people. Like Jordan Poyer's 32, Micah Hyde is 32, Von Miller is 34. How long are they going to keep, especially on defense, the current group they have together? I'm not sure. But I do know that right now they've got a Super Bowl window, and I am interested to see if the Buffalo Bills can take advantage of that. They're a really good football team. They're on the cusp. They're one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the NFL. And all you got to do is make the playoffs. Even if Miami wins the division, the AFC East, if Buffalo can make the playoffs and get hot at the end, That's all that matters. They're going to be in a position to make a Super Bowl run at the end of the year. The question is, can they? And the bigger question is, if the Bills don't win a Super Bowl this year, will they be able to next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? How long is their Super Bowl window going to stay open with the current group they have? That's the question to me about Buffalo. That was a question going into the year, and it remains the same. But I will say, it's very clear to me, Buffalo is one of the best teams in the NFL, and Buffalo on their best day is really, really good. All right, I'm going to take a short break. We'll talk about the Jets in a moment. They're 3-3, but I got to take a short break. Got to pay the bills, got to pay for food, got to pay my rent. So I'm going to take a short break, listen to one of my, I got to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors who I am so grateful for paying my bills. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks allows you to make an entry based on player projections, and in 60 seconds, you can enter something like Travis Kelce more than 5 catches, Tyreek Hill more than 100 yards receiving, and Justin Fields less than 200 yards passing. And if your picks are right, you can win money. Making picks makes games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. Prize Picks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay. And they have weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts. For example, there's a weekly event called Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. So put your skills to the test in daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS, for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. All right, we are back. Let's talk about the New York Jets. The Jets are 3-3. And if you know anything about the Jets this year, you know there's one thing I have to talk about that sums up the early part of their year. 4 snaps into the year, their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, tore his Achilles. So 4 snaps, 5 if you count the Achilles. It's a horrible joke that I still find mildly funny. It's pretty wild, though. I think that the Jets have done an incredible job. They're 3-3 without Aaron Rodgers. And I thought they were going to start the year 3-3 even with Aaron. So to me, the fact they ended up still at 3-3, beating Buffalo, beating Philly, some like really impressive victories to me, speaks really highly of their head coach, Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh, their defensive coordinator. There's not a lot of people with the sentiment that Robert Saleh shouldn't be the coach next year in New York, but there is a small contingent of people who are like, I don't know, we got the right coach. Nonsense to me. Robert Saleh is fantastic. I love him. He's well-spoken. He does a great job. His players love him. And it's clearly a defensive-led team. Like, if you're going to be a defensive head coach, the one thing you have to have is a really good defense. They have that. I really like it. If they had a better quarterback, they would be better than 3-3, I believe. One thing, though, worth noting, week 6, the Jets beat Philly. A really surprising, impressive victory. Jalen Hurts, the Eagles quarterback, had 3 interceptions. Zach Wilson had no turnovers, and that's massive. If Zach Wilson can keep limiting mistakes and having no turnovers, that's a winning formula. They play great defense. They get turnovers from the opposing team. Zach Wilson takes care of the football. I think we got potential for a playoff team in New York. For the Jets to be 3-3 is shocking, actually. And another kind of wrinkle here is that if you've been following Aaron Rodgers' recovery, it's going like insanely well. And I'm not shocked. I mean, given the money they have, given the money that Aaron Rodgers has to put into his body and try to get healthy, given some of the stuff you can do medically, I don't want to say it rhymes with dem cells. I'm not even clever. I don't know. I'm not shocked. I am shocked he's getting better this quickly. But I guess what I'm saying is that it looks like Aaron could come back like by the end of the year, maybe in time for a playoff run. Not guaranteed, but what I've heard from doctors, what I've seen from people out there, are like, it's crazy how fast Aaron Rodgers is healing. And so if the Jets are 3-3 now, they've got a couple impressive victories. Zach Wilson can take care of the football and just keep the raft afloat until Aaron comes back. There's a shot they still are a Super Bowl contender. I know that's insane, but if they can make a playoff appearance and then Aaron Rodgers can come back and do what he does really well, which is play football at an incredibly high level, there's a shot still. Like, I know it's crazy. I know Jets fans, like, they're saying, do not give me hope. I don't want to hear it. I can't take the pain. I understand that. But it does appear like if the Jets can make a playoff game and Aaron Rodgers comes back, suddenly the Jets are going from a playoff team to a Super Bowl contender like that with one move. And that is, I don't know, it's pretty wild that 6 games into the year without Aaron Rodgers, the Jets are still in it. They still have a shot to make a playoff game. They still have the season isn't lost entirely, which I find just surprising as all get out. I can't believe that. Now, the New England Patriots are 1-5. The Patriots have been horrible. It's been a disaster their year. Their offense has been garbage. I am at the point where I want to see Malik Cunningham play quarterback, actually, rather than Mac Jones. Here's why. Like, I want to make this very clear. Mac Jones isn't garbage at quarterback. He can do some stuff at an okay level, but he's really just a backup. Like, Mac Jones, to me, is a lot closer to Blaine Gabbert or Gardner Minshew than he is to Tom Brady. And I love Gardner Minshew. Like, don't get me wrong. Mac Jones does some stuff well, but he's mediocre. And when you look at a quarterback like Mac Jones, who can't run, can't extend plays, can't get outside of the pocket, has an average arm, and right now he's been making really bad decisions, what are we doing? Like, what's the upside here? What's the special trait worth investing in Mac Jones? I don't see anything. And we're at a point now where at 1-5, unless magic happens, we might be seeing the last year Bill Belichick ever coaches in New England. I remember in 2019, December, I went with my dad to go watch Tom Brady play, knowing that it was probably going to be the last time he was going to be wearing a Patriots uniform. I watched the Patriots beat the Andy Dalton-less, Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals. Andy Dalton was hurt. Joe Burrow wasn't there yet. And I watched this, for me, like a monumental moment to get to watch Tom Brady in a Patriots uniform live and in person from about the 50-yard line in Cincinnati. That was one of the moments. That's part of why I fell in love with Cincinnati, was seeing that moment, getting to enjoy that city. If you want to watch Bill Belichick in his final year in New England, you better probably go now. If you've never seen Bill Belichick coach in person, I am worried if you don't go see him this year, you're not going to see him ever. And I don't know that you really want to see what they're putting on the field right now. They're 1-5, they're horrible. But I worry and I wonder if this could be the end for Bill Belichick. Could he get fired? Does he just, if they have a horrible year, does he peacefully walk away? Does he fight for his job and say, well, now I want to draft Caleb Williams and try to screw up him? I have no idea. But certainly all the red flags and warning signs that can possibly go off in New England are going off. I'm like, they need a better GM. They need a better quarterback. They need a better coach. I can't believe what's going on. I respect Bill, but this is horrifying. Every red flag that could possibly be going off and could possibly be set off is going off right now in New England. How about the Ravens? The Baltimore Ravens are 4-2. And I think the number one storyline in Baltimore is that despite being 4-2, somehow their new offense really has not clicked yet. I've been waiting and waiting. They got a bunch of really good receiving threats. Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., like 3 guys who were first-round picks at receiver. And yet, the production isn't there. Odell Beckham Jr. has been ineffective, disappointing. He's missed 2 games with an injury. Rashad Bateman, who's been injured throughout his entire, Ravens career, has been hurt as well. They had a game in London the other day where Justin Tucker, their kicker, kicked 6 field goals. I mean, that really goes to show their offense just isn't reaching its potential yet. Doesn't mean it couldn't eventually, but they had 3 touchdowns dropped when they lost to Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. Like, it's really getting frustrating. And I don't even know what to make of this, man. Lamar is really good. He's doing some good stuff. It's when you're throwing great balls that are not getting caught for touchdowns, it's tough to know what to do. But certainly the number one takeaway for me is that Rashad Bateman has been an often injured disappointment. And Odell Beckham Jr. looks like he should retire. I mean, I've been hoping. They had a really great opportunity to throw him a fade in the end zone against Pittsburgh, and he got beat by a rookie corner who picked it off. Like, OBJ cannot win one-on-one matchups anymore. And that's disappointing and frustrating because I was hoping, I literally drafted him on my fantasy team. I thought that maybe there was potential there. I got him later in the draft and was like, this guy's going to be a steal. No, not at all. OBJ has been disappointing and ineffective. And I just, I think the story in Baltimore right now is that they're 4-2 and their offense has a lot of room to get better. They could be even better. They could be 6-0 if their offense had been clicking and firing in all cylinders. So to me, that's the improvement I want to see from the Ravens moving forward. Is I want to see their offense start to put up points and win one-on-one matchups and maybe catch the touchdowns that they're thrown. I do not blame the ineffectiveness of the offense on Lamar Jackson, certainly at all. By the way, how many times can you say ineffective in one little segment? I have no idea. I feel like I said that like 20 times. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-2, which I fundamentally cannot believe. I somehow the Steelers have a winning record, and it goes to show. This is why, like, when people ask me to criticize Mike Tomlin is not the best coach in the NFL, but he's like definitely a solid B+ tier coach. Like, he definitely gets the job done. The offense has been a disaster. They need a new offensive coordinator. They might need a new quarterback. I mean, I look at Kenny Pickett. He's better than Mac Jones because he can run around a little bit and extend plays. He's kind of got a Tony Romo quality where him at his best can extend plays and make stuff happen. But certainly, the offense has been horrible. And they're not winning games because of Kenny Pickett. Their second-year first-round quarterback in his second year. They drafted him last year in the first round. They're winning plays because their defense is just getting after. They're winning games because their defense is making plays and getting after it. And TJ Watt right now has 8 sacks in 5 games. He's tied for first in sacks in the NFL. He's a monster. He's destroying opposing quarterbacks, making their days miserable. TJ Watt would probably be in the lead for sacks if he'd played 6 games, not 5. They had a bye week early in the year. Pittsburgh, man, I think they're overachieving at 3-2. And if they can get any kind of offensive support going on, like they won a game where their defense basically single-handedly beat Baltimore. Like they forced Lamar Jackson to have 2 late turnovers. It was just, I realized Baltimore had opportunities to catch touchdown passes, which they didn't, but I just can't say enough good things about their defense. And if they can get, I don't know if the problem is the quarterback, it's probably the offensive coordinator, but if they can get any kind of production on the offensive side of the football, the Steelers are like 5-0. I mean, they are a really quality football team that just cannot get clicking on offense. And one of the problems to me is that Najee Harris he's a running back they drafted in the first round who looks like a bad draft pick. He's a physical specimen. Like, he's big, he's got all the measurables, but he's not playing football at a high level. And I think the best example of why you don't draft a running back in the first round is Najee Harris. Najee Harris, the guy that the Colts drafted, Trent Richardson. Was that the Colts? That was the Colts, right? Was that the Colts or the Browns? I can't remember. I know he played for both teams, but I can't remember where Trent Richardson started. Saquon Barkley, even as a quarterback drafted in the first round, I'm like, I think they really needed like an offensive lineman or two, or a pass rusher, or a receiver. Like, I don't think running backs are as valuable as offensive lines are anymore. And I think I would just draft running backs in the second or third round every year. I would never draft a running back in the first round ever again if I was an NFL team. The only one that made sense in the recent history was Bijan Robinson in Atlanta, because guess what? They're going to run the ball like a bazillion times to get a ton of value out of him. But even the Jahmyr Gibbs draft pick, that Detroit made drafting a running back in the first round, not great. It's not working out well. He's not their number one back. He's not necessary for them to win. They're winning without him really doing anything. So I look at the Jahmyr Gibbs draft pick and go, maybe he's a Ferrari that turns into something great. He's just not being used very much yet. But I worry that Jahmyr Gibbs is more like Reggie Bush and kind of a bust and never going to be their number one feature back in Detroit. And I think the Steelers made a similar mistake. I don't think Najee Harris is justified being a first-round pick at all throughout his entire NFL career. And, if you could go back in time and draft a lineman or draft another pass rusher or draft a receiver, I think you would do that in a heartbeat. And it goes to show, like, part of the problem in Pittsburgh is that their offense is a mess, and they, I think, wasted a first-round pick on Najee Harris. Now, the Cleveland Browns are 3-2. And injuries have hit the Browns really, really hard. Nick Chubb, the running back, is out for the year. Their right tackle, Jack Conklin, is out for the year. Their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, has missed 2 games so far this year. They're 1-1 without Deshaun Watson. Here's a really telling thing about, like a real stat, a real fact about the Browns that's very telling about how great their roster is. They beat the 49ers without their right tackle, without their running back, Nick Chubb, and without their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. They beat the San Francisco 49ers. I find that unbelievable. They beat the 49ers with P.J. Walker at quarterback, a guy who threw 2 interceptions. And yeah, he played okay down the stretch, had a couple field goal drives to, score in the fourth quarter, but it really shows how good this roster is. The Browns roster is incredible. If they can get high-level quarterback play out of Deshaun Watson when he comes back from the injury, they're going to be unstoppable. And can you imagine, I will say DeJuan Jones, the right tackle out of Ohio State, the rookie, playing pretty good. He's really stepped up to replace Jack Conklin fairly well. He's a rookie. There's been growing pains, but I've been really impressed with him, actually, given his situation. And even though the Browns have only played 5 games, some NFL teams have played 6. They had a bye week early. The Browns are categorically the number 1 defense in the NFL. They are more than a game. I know they played 1 fewer game, but they've got 500 less yards given up than any other defense in the NFL. So it's like, that's more than a game's worth of yards. They are easily and by far the best defense in the NFL. And it really goes to the credit of their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, the new guy they brought in this year who's been outstanding. And I saw a meme the other day, build the statue of Jim Schwartz. And I'm like, you know what? You're not far off. He really is just incredible. And so the Browns roster is the number 1 roster in the NFL, in my opinion. They're 3-2 with a lot of players missing. And if, God, please, if their quarterback Deshaun Watson can do anything well, I feel like they are a potential Super Bowl team. I know that's crazy, but again, put it into context. They beat the 49ers without their quarterback, without their starting right tackle that started the year, without their running back, Nick Chubb. And I just think that taking down a giant like that with P.J. Walker speaks for itself. I can't say enough good things about how the Browns are built. And if they can get high-level quarterback play, they're a terrifying, terrifying football team. The Bengals are 3-2. The Bengals are 3-3. 3 wins, 3 losses. 3-3 in Cincinnati. It's been a really ugly start to the year. Categorically, I guess statistically is the word. On paper, the Bengals have the very worst offense in the NFL, which is a horrifying thought when you realize they've got Joe Burrow, who they just paid a ton of money, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, good receivers everywhere. It's basically the same offense they've had for years, but they started 1-3. They lost to Cleveland 24-3. They lost to the Ravens 27-24. At least they put up a fight there. But then they lost to Tennessee. Not like a Super Bowl contender. They lost to the Tennessee Titans 27-3. I mean, it's been the low points in Cincinnati this year have been really, really bad. Now, they've won 2 games in a row. They beat Arizona and Seattle. It does feel like the offense is heating up. And remember, Joe Burrow started the year with a calf injury. Seems like he's getting healthy as well. I have patience for Cincinnati. A lot of people, they started 1-3 and were like, we got to fire Zach Taylor, our head coach. He's garbage. I'm like, whoa. This guy got you to a Super Bowl. What other coach in Cincinnati got you to a Super Bowl in recent memory? Shut up. Like, back-to-back AFC title game appearances. Cincinnati's okay. They're rebounding, really. And they've lost a couple players on defense as the years have gone on. They've had trouble keeping everybody together. Trey Hendrickson, their D-end, is playing really well. Has got 7 sacks, tied for 3rd in the NFL. I think let's just wait and see how the year goes for Cincinnati before we panic and freak out. They're 3-3 right now. They won 2 in a row. They're trending in the right direction. I'm going to look up. Who do the Bengals play next? I want to see. Let me open my computer. Bam. Look at the... Oh, come on. Why won't it load? There we go. Who do the Bengals play the next couple games against? They play... Oh, it's bad. Oh, no. Oh, Bengals fans, I am so sorry. They play at the 49ers in their next game on the 29th. 3-3 becomes 3-4. Oh, no. So they'll be 3-4 probably. Then they play Buffalo. Then they play a really good Houston team that's 3-3. Then they'll play Baltimore. Then they'll play Pittsburgh. Then Jacksonville, at Jacksonville. I don't know, man. It's a pretty rough schedule the rest of the year. They play The 49ers, they play Buffalo, Houston, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Indy, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cleveland. Let's count out the losses. I think they lose to San Francisco. They probably lose to Buffalo. They could lose to Houston. They play Pittsburgh twice. They probably lose one of those games. They play Jacksonville, a playoff team, Kansas City, and Cleveland. That's 7 more losses. That would be 7-10 on the year. Now, if they win a couple tough games, maybe they beat Buffalo. Maybe they beat Houston. Maybe they sweep Pittsburgh. Like, there's a shot they go 10-7. But I look at the rest of their schedule after their bye week coming up. That's discouraging. To start off the bye week against the 49ers and then Buffalo back-to-back. Oh boy. Never mind. I was saying, let's be patient, see how the year goes. No, I'm concerned. I am now concerned. We'll see, though. I got an open mind. I hope we'll see if the Bengals can hang with San Francisco and Buffalo. And at Kansas City, week 17 in December, that's a tough game. Like, I don't know, man. I really am worried about, they play the Browns at the end of the year. I don't know. I am now looking at the rest of their schedule, worried for the Bengals, but we'll see how the year goes and have an open mind. Now, I will say, let's talk about Kansas City next. The Kansas City Chiefs are 5-1, but they haven't played much of anybody. Like, the only tough game the Chiefs have played this year was against the Detroit Lions, and they lost. They beat the Jaguars, the Bears, the Jets, the Vikings, and the Broncos. Oh, great wins for Kansas City. But what I will say is that despite that that start to this segment, right, they've played basically nobody. They are a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. They're 5-1. They're first in their division. I think they've had time to really get together. They just traded for McCole Hardman today, which is really interesting. The defense is wildly underrated, in my opinion, in Kansas City. Like, their defense is part of why they're 5-1 and look really good is because their defense is fantastic. I also would argue that, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes is having probably his best year as an NFL quarterback. I know that sounds crazy, like his numbers. I think Russell Wilson literally has better numbers on paper than Patrick Mahomes, but he's winning with less at receiver than he's ever had in his entire career. He's got, yes, Travis Kelce. Sure, Travis Kelce is incredible. But after Travis Kelce, a tight end, their leading receivers are Rashee Rice, a rookie out of, I believe, SMU. Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, their two promising young receivers, only have 1 touchdown each. Like, it's really thin at receiver, and they're making plays and doing really good and winning and playing at a high level without great receivers. I find that really impressive. And, is Rashee Rice injured? No, he's not. Okay, I was like, whoa, I couldn't find him on the roster. Rashee Rice did go to SMU. There we go. So I think that given, like, I really want to do a film analysis of Patrick Mahomes at some point. Maybe that's one, like, when you do a full season review, like film analysis video, maybe Patrick Mahomes doesn't need one, like at the end of the year in, like, June, July, May, April, like that kind of stuff. Because we know Patrick Mahomes is good. There's no questions about Patrick Mahomes. And I would like to show the plays where Patrick Mahomes just makes something happen. There are plays where the defense does the right thing. The Chiefs are in the wrong play. They get stopped. It should be a stop for the defense. And then he extends the play, runs around and makes magic happen and beats the defense anyway, despite them calling a perfect play call to stop what they're doing on offense. Like, Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. And I think that I should make that video because to me, he's the best quarterback we've ever seen, literally ever. It's unbelievable the stuff he could do. And he gets a lot of credit. I think the defense deserves more credit than they're getting in Kansas City, but Patrick Mahomes is having, from what I've seen, the best year I've ever seen him play. Like, he's playing football at the highest level a quarterback has ever played on planet Earth. And I think that can't be overlooked. The Raiders are 3-3. Here's the story to me about the Raiders. The Raiders are 3-3. They're very mediocre. And they made a move to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. And you can't justify it to me. I don't understand why you brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, frankly, at all. The Raiders are mediocre. Looks like they're going to have an 8-9 season. And Jimmy Garoppolo is just perpetuating the mediocrity of this team. I mean, I don't know. Having an 8-9 season, 8 wins, 9 losses, how does that make the Raiders better for next year? It doesn't give you a top draft pick to go get a good quarterback. It doesn't give you it doesn't really help you in any way. I just don't know what the Raiders are heading towards. I think really they're playing and the decisions they're making in Las Vegas are so the GM, Dave Ziegler, and the head coach, Josh McDaniels, can keep their job and not get fired. They're playing it safe to not get fired rather than doing what it takes to get ahead as a franchise and win long term. And that's frustrating to me. If I was a Raiders fan, I'd be like, what are we doing? Jimmy Garoppolo, you realize Jimmy Garoppolo's been in the NFL for 10 years and he's only finished one season playing a full season, like 17 games in a year, or 16 at the time when it used to be. He's never played a full season other than one time, and that one time he did go to the Super Bowl, but Jimmy Garoppolo already missed week 4 with an injury. He left week 6 at halftime with a low back injury. He walked off against the Patriots. I'm like, really? You're okay? Have you ever seen the video of Brian Braum in the XFL? Do I have a pulse? Then I'm playing football, right? Jimmy Garoppolo's like, oh, does anything kind of hurt a little bit? I'm not going to play. I'm out. I'm good. I'm making millions. Why would I play? I don't want to, you hate to criticize a guy who is trying to take care of their body, but I don't know, man. I just maintain I don't understand why the Raiders have Jimmy Garoppolo. What are we doing? You got rid of Derek Carr. That was probably the right move given how he's playing in New Orleans, but you replaced him with just a crappier version of more Derek Carr, more mediocre quarterback play. And I don't, long term, I don't know how Jimmy Garoppolo is helping the Raiders get better as an organization and head towards winning a Super Bowl. I just don't. I think, again, the decision makers in Vegas are making moves so they can keep their jobs and not get fired. Keep everything as it is rather than try to get ahead and win long term. One thing, the highlight of the year for the Raiders has got to be Max Crosby, their defensive end. He's got 5.5 sacks. That's actually kind of low given, I watched it play a couple times and I'm like, dude, he's in the backfield every play. He's actually, I feel should have more sacks than we saw. He had, I think, one against the Packers, but he had one sack, but was in literally disrupting every single play for the Packers offense. And he's causing problems. And I really, really love Max Crosby. He's incredible. The Chargers are 2-3. And once again, the Chargers have been really underwhelming. They've got all this talent and a losing record. Again! And I even said it on the show, I guess yesterday's show. When is Justin Herbert going to start winning? At some point, you got to hold his feet to the fire and say, you got all this talent around you. You are ridiculously good. I watched him miss multiple throws on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys. He had Keenan Allen wide open for a double move and missed the throw. You're like, hey, buddy, I'm open. Can I get the ball, please? And Herbert missed him. Also, there was a really good out route. Should have been a first down. He threw it in the dirt. There's too much talent for the Chargers to be 2-3 right now. They play at Kansas City week 7 on Sunday. That's going to be a good test. If they go to 2-4, the year is over in LA. I'm so tired of the underwhelming disappointment that is Brandon Staley, that is this Chargers football team. I like Brandon Staley as a man. He's created an environment I'd like to work at, but he doesn't own an HVAC company. Right? When I worked at HVAC, I had the best boss ever. But you're working in football where results matter. You have to win. I don't care how nice you are. I don't care. I do care. I want you to be a good person, but a nice person still has to win football games. And I just am not seeing that from Brandon Staley. I'm not seeing that from the Chargers. They're 2-3. Every year they've been a disappointment under Herbert, with Herbert at quarterback and with Brandon Staley at head coach. And at some point, winning's got to happen. Herbert's too good to be losing. And so I think if you're not going to get rid of Justin Herbert. If you put Justin Herbert on the trade block, there would be probably 31. I don't know who wouldn't trade for him. Buffalo probably wouldn't trade for him. The Ravens, Cincinnati, Kansas City. That feels like that's it, though. If you put Justin Herbert on the trade block, I think Philly would trade for him. Really, I know that's insane. Maybe that's blasphemous. I don't know. But if you could trade Jalen Hurts for Justin Herbert, would you? Probably, right? There's most teams in the NFL would like to have Justin Herbert. So I don't think you blame Justin Herbert. I think you blame the coaching staff. And I'm hoping that as this year goes to garbage and goes to crap in LA with the Chargers, that eventually a move is made that can allow a better coaching staff to take over and not be disappointing and underwhelming as they've been every year under Brandon Staley. I like the idea, by the way, if you fire Brandon Staley, elevate Kellen Moore to head coach temporarily, maybe they do really well. And if he does well If the audition goes well, you hire him full-time as a head coach in LA with Kellen Moore. I like that idea. The Denver Broncos are 1-5. They've lost to their former ball boy, Mike McDaniel. They lost to 3 of their former head coaches. They lost to a former defensive coordinator of theirs, Jack Del Rio. Like, it's been horrifying in Denver. I will say Russell Wilson hasn't been awful on paper. 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's moving around pretty well. Like when you watch Russell Wilson, he does extend plays pretty well. He's getting out of the pocket. But certainly, this is not the start you hoped for when you brought in Sean Payton as your head coach. It's been really bad. And I think while Russell Wilson hasn't been garbage, he's not been worth the money they're spending on him. I saw today, like, people are speculating, hey, maybe the Broncos draft Drake May, 3rd overall in the draft. They've got the 3rd pick right now. They've got the worst defense in the NFL, though, which, as you blame Russell Wilson, certainly you have to acknowledge, Russell Wilson hasn't played well enough given the amount of money he's being paid. He's not been a superstar, and he's got to be, given what he's been offered and what they gave up to get him. But that defense has been the number one problem in Denver. They're the worst defense statistically in the NFL, and it's hard to win games when you've got an insanely bad defense, no matter who you are. Philadelphia, the Eagles are 5-1, and they're a Super Bowl contender. I mean, it's very clear. The Eagles are really good. They play great defense. One thing, though, we're talking about, the narrative, I think, right now in Philly is this concerning slow start for Jalen Hurts, the quarterback. You gave him a ton of money in the offseason. He's got 7 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions. He's run for a touchdown. He's got a fumble. So 8 touchdowns and 8 turnovers this year for your quarterback, Jalen Hurts. That's not good. You're 5-1, so you're winning anyway. And I have patience. Like, if you're losing, if you're 3-3 as Philly and you've got Jalen Hurts playing the way he is, then you go, ugh. But you're 5-1. You've lost one game. The one game you lost, Jalen Hurts had 3 interceptions against the Jets this past weekend. I think you can chalk up, if you want, you can rationalize the slow start for Jalen Hurts as they got a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator. New coordinators have been maybe taking time for things to gel, I guess. I don't know. But Philly's 5-1. Jalen Hurts, though, has played better football in the past, and I think can be better and hopefully will be better as the year goes on. But they're winning anyway, so it's a concern that feels like there's lots of time for them to clean up given how good their team is around Jalen Hurts. The Dallas Cowboys are 4-2, and the Cowboys season is going exactly as I expected, if I'm totally honest. They've got this incredible defense, and they've got an offense that has limitations. The big question mark in Dallas going into the year was their quarterback, Dak Prescott, and their head coach, Mike McCarthy. That's still the concern. They lost to Arizona, which was embarrassing, and then they lost to the 49ers 42-10, which is really like a measurement benchmark game for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, oh, this is where we're at right now. We're losing to a Super Bowl contender 42-10. Okay, now we know where we stand. It was really like putting the Cowboys in their place. And I don't have much more to say. It's an incredible defense that's, I think, going to be held back by their limited offense with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. And if they don't win a Super Bowl this year, given how good their defense is, given how good some of the players they have are, it's a failure. And I think you got to, at some point, go, hey, we might have the wrong coach and quarterback and might have to make a change. I don't think they will. My dad said it on the show. The Cowboys are one death away from winning a Super Bowl, which is Jerry Jones, their owner. That's harsh, but it's funny and true. And I think as long as Jerry Jones is calling the shots in Dallas, they're always going to have a limitation a bit on offense because of his sentimentality and because of his unwillingness to hire a head coach and get out of the way and let the coach do everything. So, hey, I hear Bill Belichick might be out of a job after this year. I know he's been terrible in New England, but maybe Bill Belichick takes over and is a coach of the Cowboys. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Bill Belichick having to deal with Jerry Jones? He'd rather retire. It's a hilarious thought. All right, guys, I got to take another short break. I got to buy food. I got to pay my rent. Got to pay the bills. So I'm going to take a break. When I return, Washington, the Giants, the Lions, the Packers, a lot of good stuff ahead. My name is Zach. I got to take a short break. I will be right back. Hey guys, it's kind of a big deal here. I'm actually trying to help you, so don't skip the ad. I know that when you listen to a podcast, you skip ahead. I know that because that's what I do, but don't skip this one. We got Factor as a sponsor, and I was sitting down to prepare my little ad read. They give, I write a piece of paper with a bunch of notes, and I'm like, okay, what are they offering? What's the deal here? Usually it's like 10 to 20%. Like, okay, factor.com/SOS, whatever. And no. They are offering 50% off to Strong Opinion Sports listeners. And here's what they are. Factor is a meal kit service. You can get 50% off. Go to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use code SOS50. And straight up on a human level, if you'd be kind of silly not to investigate, it's a great deal. Factor is a meal kit service. They send you ready-to-eat meals. They're easy to prepare. For me, they showed up in a box with a bunch of high-quality ice packs. You take them out of the box. You put the meal kits in the fridge. And when you want food, you go to the fridge. You take it out. You put the thing in the microwave. You heat it up. 2 minutes later, you've got a really good meal ready to go. Now, the microwave part made me kind of go, what is this? Is it a bunch of TV dinners? Like, what is this crap? No. This is phenomenal food. It's high quality. It's never frozen. And compared to all the other options you can have for a quick and easy meal, it kind of kicks booty and is phenomenal. So what I really think is interesting too, there's so many ways to customize your order, whether maybe you're on a diet and you're like, hey, I'm trying to cut calories. There are low calorie options. Or maybe you just want really good food that's easy to make and doesn't take 30 minutes to an hour out of your time cooking during the day. Like for me, I'm really busy with football season, and it's an incredibly valuable thing for me to go to my fridge, grab a really good meal, pull it out, put it in the microwave. 2 minutes later, I've got a good meal ready to go. I saved a lot of time. It's cheaper for you and better than takeout or delivery. I used to drive for a delivery service. Guys, those prices are not good compared to this. So again, it's just nice to have the fridge loaded with high quality, good meals that are easy to prepare. And you can get 50% off of this meal kit service. Do the math. That's a really good offer. So head to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use code SOS50 to get 50% off. That is factormeals.com/SOS50. Use code SOS50 to get 50% off. Again, code SOS50 at factormeals.com/SOS50 to get 50% off. And guys, it's a great offer. You would be silly. I'm trying to help you. Like, that would be a great thing to investigate because it's legitimately a great deal. Food's expensive right now, and having food that's great and convenient and not terrible for you is a rare thing. So investigate it. factormeals.com/SOS50. All right, we are back. Let's talk about Washington. The Commanders are 3-3 this year. I am optimistic, though, after a 3-3 start. I look at them and go, you know what? Not horrible. They're 3-3. The main focus has been on their quarterback, Sam Howell. He had a bad game, 4 interceptions week 3 against Buffalo. That's not great. But on the year, Sam Howell's got 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He also ran for a touchdown. I think we might be seeing Sam Howell become the long-term quarterback in Washington. Like, it's very early. We're 6 games into the year, but I think it's been promising and given me hope. I'm like, okay, hey, there's a shot here. I will say Sam Howell is the most sacked quarterback in the entire NFL, which is concerning. He's holding on to the ball a little too long, extending plays. Throw the ball away. Don't take a sack. It also speaks to their offensive line is growing, but I think a lot of the sacks I've seen in Washington have been Sam Howell holding on to the ball too long. So Sam Howell, work in progress, but trending in the right direction. Like when you compare Sam Howell to Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, Desmond Ridder I'm highly skeptical of. Sam Howell I look at with optimism and go, you know what? Hey, there's something here. He's playing well, and I think might be their quarterback long term. That's exciting and interesting. Now, the defensive line in Washington, to me, has been underwhelming. They've got all these first-round picks. Let me look it up. I want to find the number. How many sacks do they have on the year? Where do they list? Where do they rank as far as sacks go? I bet they're down at the bottom. They've been really not getting... Okay, no, they're 1, 2... They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... They're 8th in sacks. Could be worse. They got 19 sacks on the year. But when I watch them, they're not winning one-on-one matchups. And like against Buffalo, for example. Let me look through their schedule so far. Chicago was frustrating. They weren't getting a lot of pressure on Justin Fields. They weren't containing him very well. The Philly game, the Bills game, those are their 3 losses on the year. Against those really dynamic quarterbacks, they haven't been winning on the offense, on the defensive line, and to me, that's a problem. They spent a lot of capital, drafted a lot of guys in the first round to build their defensive line, and I guess really the guy that stands out to me the most is Chase Young. Chase Young has just not been producing at a high enough level, given where he was drafted number 2 overall. He's got 3 sacks on the year. That's not great. I feel like there's more production to be had from their defensive line. But otherwise, I look at Washington and feel pretty optimistic and like what they're doing as an organization. The Giants, the New York Giants, are 1-5. Their year has been a total, complete disaster. The offensive line has been a mess that makes it basically unable for their offense to function. They did beat the Cardinals. They were down 28-0. They came back and won, which is just unbelievable. To come back from down 28-0. No, sorry, it was 20-0 at halftime, then 28-7. But the Giants came back and won that game 31-28. That's pretty crazy. That's the only win of the year, though, for the Giants. So far, it's been awful. Daniel Jones, our quarterback, has been sacked 28 times in 5 games. He's hurt, missed a game last week against the Buffalo Bills. They had a shot to win the Bills game, I thought, but they basically screwed up on the goal line twice in that game, once at the end of halftime, once before halftime, once before the end of the game in the fourth quarter. The Giants have really taken a step backward. I thought they were going to be a better team that would win fewer games this year. They're not a better team than they were last year. They look worse as a whole. They're also going to lose more games than they did last year. So I think this has been a step backward in totality for the New York Giants. And we've got concerns about, Darren Waller's getting paid a lot of money, not making plays. Daniel Jones, their quarterback, got paid a ton of money this offseason. It looks like he's going to have to be let go as soon as the contract allows him to get out of that contract. So I have major, major concerns about the Giants, and I just hope that I like Brian Daboll. I thought he did a great job last year, and I worry that Brian Daboll, the head coach in New York, is not going to be able to survive the Daniel Jones contract. He's probably going to fall victim and get fired, which is unfortunate because I think he can do good stuff, and he's certainly, I guess you could argue he's not coaching well enough, but there are times where he calls a good play call, and Daniel Jones simply isn't executing, and I'm like, I don't know what you do as a coach there. It's got to be frustrating, and so, the Giants season as a whole has been a complete disaster. The Detroit Lions are 5-1. How about that? The Lions are tied for the best record in all of football, which, man, I look around and is the world ending? Is there something I don't know? It does feel that way, but certainly one of the signs to me is that the Lions are good. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I've never seen the Lions be tied for the best record in football in my entire life. It's been really wild. One story going on, though, I think we're talking about in Detroit, as good as their year has been, their first-round pick, running back Jahmyr Gibbs, it's been a disappointment. They're not using him very much. He's missed 2 games with a hamstring injury. He's got 39 carries for 179 yards, 1 touchdown run, 14 catches for 70 yards. They're winning without him. And David Montgomery, their running back, has been the feature back and the guy they're just using all the time. And the times I've seen Jahmyr Gibbs try to run inside, he bounces it outside. It feels like he's not disciplined enough to run their offense. They want him to run between the tackles sometimes, and he's bouncing it outside and doing undisciplined stuff and not trusting his blocking. There are things that are warning signs about Jahmyr Gibbs. I thought we saw that even week 1 against Kansas City where you're I get why they're not putting Jahmyr Gibbs on the field more, but if you can find a way to get that guy the ball in space, they've been running screen games with him. They've been trying to get screen passes, trying to get him the ball, but right now they're not using it very much. And it looks like maybe a wasted draft pick where I remember the Saints drafted Reggie Bush 2nd overall, and he was not a bust, but he never became the star player they were hoping he would. And so I think a similar thing might be going on with Jahmyr Gibbs, but we'll see. It's very early. He is injured. And I think that what's really interesting is they're winning in spite of Jahmyr Gibbs not being used very much and not having much production. They've got a top 10 defense. The Lions are incredible. And it does feel like, hey, the Lions are going to make a playoff game. And, they got a shot to make a Super Bowl appearance, straight up. I think the Lions are in that conversation. They're tied for the best record in football. They're in the mix right now. And as you look around the NFC, it's Philly, the 49ers, the Lions, the Cowboys. Detroit, Dallas would be an incredible, incredible playoff game. I really believe that. And if you can win a playoff game, get yourself in a position, maybe got home field advantage in the playoffs, I think the Lions potentially could make a Super Bowl run, which is unprecedented and very cool that that's a reality. They got to stay healthy, but they're playing really good football, and their rebuild is going phenomenally. The Green Bay Packers are 2-3. They got a young quarterback, Jordan Love, who's got, he had 3 interceptions on Monday Night Football last week. There have been highs, there have been lows. Jordan Love, I've got no concerns about, really. The best of Jordan Love is really good, and the worst of Jordan Love can be written off as a young quarterback learning and growing, and that's fine to me. They got a young receiving core. Christian Watson, their young receiver, has been out, missed a couple games this year. They've got a good defense. For me, the Packers are in a building year. I'm just not concerned about Green Bay. I thought they were going to go 9-8 this year. That prediction still feels right. They're on track, and I don't have much more to add. I really think that the Packers are exactly what I thought they would be. They're doing some good stuff. They're losing some games in ways that are, reminiscent of a team with a young quarterback who's learning. And I just go, yeah, what did you expect from the Packers this year? They look fine, and I think they got the right quarterback who long-term is their guy. And as the years go on and he gets better and grows further, I think the Packers are totally fine and in a good position franchise-wise. The Vikings are 2-4. Ironically, remember last year the story was, man, the Vikings are 11-0 during the regular season in one-score games. Ironically, all 4 losses the Vikings have been by 1 score or less. And, they've got a linebacker, Danielle Hunter, who's got 8 sacks this year. He's tied for first in the NFL, tied with TJ Watt. Danielle Hunter's a guy they might want to move at the trade deadline. I think you trade with Seattle. You get a first-round pick for that. That would be huge. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson's out with an injury. Is a first-round pick for Danielle Hunter too high? Probably. I don't know if they could get that back because he's older. How old is Danielle Hunter? Let's find out. Danielle Hunter, I don't know if they could get that back, but Seattle's a team that feels like they're on the cusp of a playoff appearance who really needs a good pass rusher to make the difference. And if they can bring that in, that'd be huge. Danielle Hunter, let's find out. He is 28. So I think a first-round pick for Danielle Hunter, if you can get that with Seattle, you make that trade tomorrow. The Vikings are, I think, a team that's heading towards a rebuild. Feels like the year is over at 2-4. Justin Jefferson's injured. It's Kirk Cousins' last year of his contract. I think the Vikings got to start making moves and unloading some of their players at their deadline and building for next year. And I think that makes total sense. If you can trade Kirk Cousins and get, I don't know, a second-round pick or a first or a second and third-round pick, if you can trade Danielle Hunter for a first-round pick, you do that, you make those trades, and you start thinking about next year if you're Minnesota. No shame in that. I think the coaching staff should be safe. I don't think you fire anybody. I think you chalk it up to we had a couple one-score losses that have been tough, and it's been an ugly year, kind of some bad luck for us, and we knew that cap-wise we had to rebuild anyway, so Kevin O'Connell should keep his job. Brian Flores should keep his job. I like everyone there, but let's rebuild in Minnesota. That's what I would do right now, 6 games into the year. The Chicago Bears are 1-5, and they had the number 1 pick last year. They're on track to do it again this year. Now, weirdly enough, right now they have the number 1 and number 2 pick with their own pick, and then also the Carolina Panthers pick. There have been some brief moments this year that I've been excited watching the Chicago Bears. They lost to Denver by 3. They had a 28-0 lead. I was like, yes. I think that's what. Let me look it up. I want to make sure. I believe they led 28-0, and I was like, man, I remember watching the game. I don't remember what the score was exactly, but I remember feeling like, wow, we're finally seeing the Bears click. And then in the second half, they allowed Denver to come back, and they lost. And it was like, man, are you kidding me? And then on top of that, they beat the Washington Commanders 40-20. And, the receiver had, what's the name? Why am I blanking on the name? I got to just look up the Bears. Let's look up their roster. The receiver they traded for with Carolina, DJ Moore. Thank you for the last name. DJ Moore had 3 touchdowns against Washington. I was like, man, this is so good. Things were trending up. Even though they lost to Denver, they were doing really well, heading in a good direction. Then they beat Washington the week after that. I was like, yes, things are going really well. And then this past week, Justin Fields, their quarterback, dislocated his thumb on his throwing hand, which to me really throws a wrench in their year and throws a wrench in their progression. Because even if Justin Fields does come back, which he will eventually, but when he comes back, he's still not going to be at full strength. A lot of people, you need your thumb to throw the football, and some people handle that injury differently than others. But I can't imagine throwing a football without my thumb on my throwing hand. That would be huge. So we'll see how long it takes for that to recover. I'm disappointed because I thought they were heading in a good direction until the Justin Fields injury. Then you're like, oh man, another setback for Chicago. Now the defense has been horrid in Chicago. The team has a defensive head coach, Matt Eberflus, and it doesn't show. Like, you're like, hey, I thought you were a defensive guy. If you're going to be a defensive head coach, you have to have a good defense. Like, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like, the way to justify your existence is you got to win with your defense. And if you're not playing good defense, then why do we have you as our head coach? I don't understand. Especially when you got Justin Fields, a young quarterback who really needs probably an offensive mind. I don't know, man. They added 2 linebackers in free agency, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Thank God that's where Chicago spent their money, on linebackers. Woo! Yeah, you're 1-5. It didn't matter. Frustrating to me. You probably should have got offensive linemen and maybe another receiver or 2. I don't know, man. I really think that the Chicago Bears are poorly run. They've got probably the wrong head coach. They've got a GM who's spending money on linebackers in today's NFL, which, linebackers are probably, that's got to be one of the least valuable positions, man. They're interior defenders who mostly stop the run. Like, what? In 2023, where it's a passing league? Okay. It's not, those moves haven't helped them win this year, Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. So, I don't know, man. I really feel down in the dumps about the Bears season, how it's going. Now Justin Fields is injured. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just all bad. Bears are 1-5, and if they can get 2 top five picks, that would be huge. My roommate's a Bears fan. She said, "Hey, can we trade those top picks for better coaching?" And I laughed my ass off. I was like, "That's hilarious, man." So anyway, the Bears are in bad shape. Tampa is 3-2. The Buccaneers lost Week 5 to the Lions 20-6. And was that Week 5? I think that was actually Week 6. I wrote Week 5 in my notes. That was this past weekend. So. Week 6, coming off the bye week, they lost to Detroit 20-6. That was disappointing to me because, they're coming off a bye week and they didn't really challenge Detroit at all. Now, they still lead the NFC South, and their quarterback, Baker Mayfield's been pretty solid, got 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 5 games in for Baker Mayfield to only have 3 turnovers is pretty huge. And the defense is really good. So there's potential here. I think the Buccaneers could win their division. And Baker's been good enough that I could see him being their long-term quarterback. He's not amazing, but if you can get a cheaper contract with Baker, that allows you to build a better team around him and have better teammates. Maybe you pay Mike Evans. Hello, why aren't you paying him? Or why didn't you before the year started? I don't know, man. I think Tampa's in an interesting spot where they're 3-2. They're first in their division by a hair, by a technicality, really, because they've played 1 fewer game than the rest of their division. Like Atlanta's 3-3, New Orleans is 3-3, but certainly Tampa, they've got a shot to win their division, and I think that would be a good story and a good success story for them. I think that's possible, and if they do that, I think you keep the group together and keep trying to build what you got. Atlanta's 3-3 right now. The number one question in Atlanta is the quarterback, Desmond Ridder. This is a capable football team, right? They're competitive, they're in games, but it does appear like the more they ask of their young quarterback in his second year, Desmond Ridder, who was elevated to starter this year, it feels like the more you ask of Desmond Ridder, the worse he is. He's got 6 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions on the year. He had 3 interceptions this past weekend in a loss. And I do kind of wonder, like, I'm glad they gave Desmond Ridder a shot. It allows you to, if Desmond Ridder has turned out to be really good, I mean, he got 11 games left in the year. There's still time. If Desmond Ridder is good, then you got a really cheap quarterback who allows you to have a really good team you can build around him, which, look at the 49ers. The blueprint for the 49ers, if you can copy them, have a quarterback on a cheap rookie contract, and make a ton of money and spend your money on a ton of positions around the quarterback, that's a winning formula. But Desmond Ridder has to be good, and we're seeing he's okay. We're 6 games in. He got 11 games left. There's still time for him to develop and prove that he's better than he looks right now, but I do wonder if it's not if it's not Desmond Ridder, could you bring in Kirk Cousins, guy from his wife's from Georgia? What would Kirk Cousins do to this Atlanta football team? Is that an upgrade? Is it better to maybe draft someone like Cam Ward? Probably, because you can still get a cheaper contract. I think there's decisions to be made in Atlanta long-term about the quarterback spot that we're still waiting to see how everything plays out with Desmond Ridder before we make a decision and kind of see what the plan is after Ridder, if there is an after Ridder, because maybe Ridder, I don't know, maybe he plays great the final 11 games, but 6 games in, it looks like Desmond Ridder isn't worth keeping as your starting quarterback after this year. The New Orleans Saints are 3-3. 3-3 is wildly disappointing for New Orleans. You brought in Derek Carr. You're hoping that was going to elevate your offense. Your offense has been, what's the highest you've scored this year? You scored, you beat the Patriots 34-0. Okay, a couple defensive touchdowns. I don't know, man. Derek Carr has been underwhelming. They have the talent where they should be leading this division easily in the NFC South. But they lost. The loss that was the worst one for New Orleans so far this year was losing to Tampa 26-9. You're like, oh boy. I thought the Saints were going to be in a position where they would easily win this division. And I think on paper they should be. And Derek Carr has time, he's learning a new offense, but so is CJ Stroud. And they lost to Houston this past weekend 20-13. Like, Derek Carr got outshined by a rookie quarterback, CJ Stroud. How does that feel? That's not good. I think week 6, in fact, losing to Houston was kind of a new low for them. Because, if you beat Houston and Tampa, you're 5-1. 5-1 instead of 3-3. Even if you beat Houston this past weekend and you have a quarterback who can outplay a rookie quarterback, if Derek Carr doesn't get outdueled by CJ Stroud, you're 4-2 instead of 3-3, and you've got a comfortable lead in your division. You know what I mean? It's really frustrating to me. Like, the Saints are just underachieving, and it's not good. The Carolina Panthers are 0-6. It's been a disaster of a year so far for them. I am trying to be patient, trying to let things work out, but it's been taking too long, right? The last 2 games, they've lost to Detroit 42-24, and they lost to Miami 42-21. It's been ugly. And their number 1 overall pick, quarterback Bryce Young, I like him. I'm rooting for him. He hasn't really had a good game yet, though. I've been waiting, and CJ Stroud's playing amazing, has 9 touchdowns and 1 interceptions in Houston. Bryce Young hasn't popped, man. He's just not looking good. And I am concerned they've got the wrong coach, Frank Reich. I had hope. They brought in Frank Reich, and I think you could, if you wanted to blame what happened in Indianapolis on Frank Reich, fair enough. But I thought, they had a lot of turmoil at quarterback. They got a crazy owner. Maybe Frank Reich wasn't the problem in Indy. You get him in Carolina. He's a former quarterback. He's working with Bryce Young, this young quarterback. Frank Reich's going to be awesome. I believe in that. It's not been good, man. And I recognize the Jaguars went 3-14 in year 1 with Trevor Lawrence. So maybe, hey, the Carolina Panthers are going to be horrible and be better next year. But also, the Jaguars were coached by Urban Meyer. They had to fire their coach at the end of the year to get a better one to help their team win and help their young quarterback do better. So I'm really worried about the head coach situation with Frank Reich. It's also worth noting the Carolina Panthers do not have a first-round pick next year in 2024. They traded it to Chicago to go get Bryce Young and move up in the draft. So right now, if the Bears, the Carolina Panthers have earned the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, but it would go to Chicago because they don't have it. I mean, that's all bad. And so I am very concerned and really frustrated with the Carolina Panthers and how bad they've been so far this year. The 49ers are 5-1. To me, they're the Super Bowl favorite, not a Super Bowl favorite, the Super Bowl favorite. Detroit, Philly, Buffalo, Kansas City, Miami. Everyone's got to beat them, in my opinion. I think an incredible Super Bowl would actually be the 49ers against Miami. I want to watch that. That would be so much fun. Get to watch Mike McDaniel against Kyle Shanahan, 2 guys who coached together in San Francisco. That would be incredible. I would love to see that. That defense with Vic Fangio against the 49ers offense would be really fun. They've got a couple injuries right now in San Francisco. Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey are injured short term. They're going to miss a game, if a game at all. So at most, they'll miss 1 game. This is a really complete football team, man. They're loaded everywhere. Steve Wilkes, their defensive coordinator, has been awesome. Brock Purdy's been playing great. He had kind of an average game. They lost this past weekend to the Cleveland Browns, but the Browns are the best defense in football, so it's okay. To me, I'm like, don't overreact. 49ers are 5-1. They're the team to beat in the NFL. I mean, they're the best team I've seen all year, and I stand by that. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-2. It's a fun team in Seattle, man. I really like what they got going on. I love Pete Carroll. He is, I don't know how long he's going to coach, but he is ageless, man. He doesn't look a day over 50, and he's the oldest coach in the NFL, and he's just playing. He's running around and having fun and looks like himself, and it's awesome. He's coaching at a high level. His team is playing great. Seattle's had struggles on the offensive line, though. They've had injuries. They've had guys not playing great. At one point, they had 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen injured and had to play a ton of backups. I mean, that's insane. I would love to see Seattle trade for a pass rusher at the trade deadline. Maybe trade for Danielle Hunter. I would give up a first-round pick to go get Danielle Hunter. I think that's worth it. Seattle's a good enough team. They're going to have a later first-round pick anyway. Like, Danielle Hunter's worth it. What you can get, instead of drafting a player, imagine you're drafting Danielle Hunter, a 28-year-old incredible pass rusher who's tied for first in sacks right now in the NFL. You make that move if you can. Yannick Ngakoue's interesting. Another guy I'd give up a first-round pick for is Brian Burns in Carolina. So I want to see Seattle make a move at the trade deadline. There are pass rushers available out there. Randy Gregory got traded for by the 49ers, so he's off the board. But Danielle Hunter, Yannick Ngakoue, Brian Burns, there are guys you can go get to make your pass rush even better, and that's possible. That's kind of the only weakness I really see on this football team outside of the struggles on the offensive line. They have 3 good receivers, I thought, going into the year. At least I was hoping they would. They've had to use a lot of 2 wide receiver sets, though, with only Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, because they usually have to have a tight end stay in to block and help the offensive line, which means that first-round pick rookie receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba hasn't been on the field very much, and when he's been on the field, hasn't done very much. He's got only 16 catches for 110 yards. Doesn't really have a big play yet so far. I would say that's maybe the most disappointing thing about Seattle is that their offensive line problems have been keeping Jackson Smith-Njigba off the field, and even when he's on the field, he's not been great. Otherwise, though, like, what's the longest catch for Jackson Smith-Njigba? His longest catch is for 18 yards. Like, I thought he was going to be a big playmaker. That's a problem to me. But otherwise, Seattle, they're fun. They're heading in a good direction. I want to see them trade for a pass rusher at the trade deadline. Danielle Hunter, first-round pick, go get him. Brian Burns, give up a first-round pick to go get him. Yannick Ngakoue is available. I think I would give up like a third-round pick to go get Yannick Ngakoue. But I think a really good pass rusher is a difference between Seattle making and missing the playoffs this year, or even maybe having a playoff victory or not this year. So Danielle Hunter would be a huge addition to Seattle. Brian Burns would be a huge addition to Seattle. Dude, maybe you trade for both. Trade the farm. Go get 2 great pass rushers. That's all Seattle's missing, man. I would give up, if I could make this trade, this is what I would do. I would trade all 3 of my first-round picks, my first 3 picks for next year. I would give up my second and third-round pick to go get Brian Burns. I would give up a first-round pick to get Danielle Hunter and build an incredible defensive line. I would do that without even thinking about it. I know there's ramifications, but you're not going to get either one of those players in the first 3 picks of next year's draft anyway, not someone that quality. You need pass rushers in Seattle. Trade a first-round pick for Danielle Hunter, a second and third-round pick for Brian Burns. Make that happen. That would be incredible to me. Or maybe you flip it. Maybe a second and third-round pick for Danielle Hunter and a first-round pick for Brian Burns. I don't care how you do it. Go get not one of them, get both of them. Seriously, like, what better player are you going to draft in the second round next year than Brian Burns? Same with the third round. Same with the first round. You're going to have a late, mid-first-round pick. Like, you're not going to get anybody better than either of those 2 players. I think you give up your draft picks to go get 2 great pass rushers in Seattle. That would be unbelievable. You know how much better Seattle would be long-term with those 2 guys? How old's Brian Burns? Let's find out. Brian Burns is, let's look on, I can't even find it, Carolina's roster, Brian Burns' age. Brian Burns is 25 years old. Are you kidding me? Seattle, I'm begging you. Trade for Brian Burns and double down trade for Danielle Hunter. If you have an incredible defensive line, you're going to be such a good football team. And I think that's the number one. I know they had 11 sacks against the Giants. I don't count that for very much. I mean, like, yeah, okay. The Giants are awful. Also, one of those 11 sacks was them literally tackling a receiver running a fly motion in the backfield. That counted as a sack because he picked up the ball to look like he was going to throw a double pass. Like, you know what I mean? Please, Seattle, trade for a pass rusher. I'm begging you. The LA Rams are 3-3. The Rams are awesome, man. They're, even their losses have been competitive and interesting. This team is fun. They're young. They're talented. They're competitive. I think Matthew Stafford has shown he's got a lot of good football left in his career. He's got more interceptions than I would like. But that's Matthew Stafford, right? You get a lot of good Matthew Stafford, and then you get him throwing a sidearm ball across the field for an interception. You're like, well, that's the trade-off you get with Matthew Stafford. You get a lot of good. He's Brett Favre. You also get a lot of bad. Cooper Kupp is back healthy. Kyren Williams, who I believe is injured right now, but Kyren Williams has been a really surprising, awesome running back for them. Puka Nacua is a stud rookie receiver. It's looking like you're going to keep everybody at the trade deadline. You don't trade Matthew Stafford. You don't trade Aaron Donald. You don't trade Cooper Kupp. You got a 3-3 football team that's got potential, and I think you just keep building and growing. And I like what the Rams are doing, man. They're better than I thought. And tip of the cap to the LA Rams. The Arizona Cardinals are 1-5, and when I said they're 1-5, I felt like they were better than 1-5. Like I feel like they've been a better team than their record would show. But the reality is, the last 3 weeks, Arizona's been outscored 95-45. So they're not close to winning recently. And I love Josh Dobbs. He's a cool story. He's my favorite Gardner Minshew type quarterback where like he's not quite a starter, but he's not quite a backup. He's kind of right on the cusp. And he's a guy who can come in and play good here and there. And he played really good in the Dallas Cowboys game. The reality is we saw Kyler Murray return to practice today and they could use him. I think that Arizona with a better quarterback and scoring more points is probably the right thing, obviously. And I think Kyler Murray healthy is going to be exactly what they need. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for Kyler Murray. He's returned to practice. I'm not sure how long until he's going to be playing in games again. But I will say, given the bad roster they've got in Arizona, Jonathan Gannon has been better than I expected he would be. And I think that's the best thing I could say about the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon's been awesome. I really like him. I hated on him a bit early in the year, made fun of him, had fun with that. But I know they're 1-5. I'm shocked by that. Like, I really feel like they've been better than that. But the reality is, again, recently they've been outscored and unable to score enough points to keep up with opposing teams. So looks like, hey, it's time to bring back Kyler, and we'll see what he can do when he comes back. All right, let's talk about the AFC South to end today's show. It's kind of a meme. I always put the AFC South at the end of everything. And I was going to, because Thursday Night Football this week is the Saints against the Jaguars, I was going to put both the NFC and AFC South at the end. But then I was putting together my notes and I forgot to put the NFC South at the end. I just put the AFC South at the end. So everyone's always mad. Like, why do you put the AFC South at the end? It's perpetuated. It's funny, kind of. It's almost like a meme at this point. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 4-2. I would be shocked if the Jaguars did not win their division. Linebacker Josh Allen is tied for third in the NFL with 7 sacks. I think that the Jaguars look good. They've got a good coach. They got a good quarterback. Things are heading in the right direction after kind of the best start possible. They started 1-2. They lost to Kansas City. They lost to Houston 37-17. That was pretty bad. But I think all things considered, the Jaguars should win their division, be a playoff team, and that's what I expect from them, and they're on track for that. One thing that's been disappointing, though, about Jacksonville is Travon Walker, their former number 1 overall pick in 2022. He's got 2.5 sacks in 6 games this year. He's second in sacks on their team. Josh Allen leads the team with 7. I understand that, but I was hoping Travon Walker would be making a bigger impact so far in his career, and he just hasn't been. And I worry that was a missed draft pick where they might have drafted the wrong guy in Jacksonville with Travon Walker. Now, the Colts are 3-3. We learned today that officially Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson is out for the year. He's having shoulder surgery, so that's really disappointing. He played well. We'll do a film analysis about him next week. Unless Gardner Minshew can come out and shock the world, the season is over in Indy. But I will say, I'm excited. I have something to root for in Indianapolis. I get to watch Gardner Minshew, a player I love, who's like, he's my spirit animal, man. I love him. He lives in a van, drives around the country. Like, I love him so much. Gardner Minshew, whether he does good or bad, I'm going to be watching and rooting for him this year. I really like him. I'm going to cover him. That'll be fun. It's given something fun to pay attention to this year was Gardner Minshew. And, I'm trying to make a silver lining out of this unfortunate injury for Anthony Richardson. Like, I guess at least if they're going to turn to a backup quarterback, it might as well be someone fun and exciting and interesting like Gardner Minshew rather than, I don't know, Blaine Gabbert or PJ Walker. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, at least Gardner Minshew has got a fun personality and is a guy that seems like he's an awesome person who is easy to root for, but I feel bad for Colts fans. The Houston Texans are 3-3, and I want to give a massive tip of the cap. I had them going 2-15 this year. Right? They've already won more games than I predicted they would during the preseason. That's awesome. It looks like they found the right coach in D'Amico Ryans. I believed in him the whole time. I was like, he's going to be the right coach to lead them to being a competitive and interesting team. It's just happened way faster than I thought. I can't believe that. They've had a couple great wins early on this year. They beat Pittsburgh 30-6. They beat the Jaguars 37-17. The Texans Houston's been awesome. Now, what's been a shock to me is how quickly their rookie quarterback, CJ Stroud, has put things together. He's looked really good. He's 4th in yards in the entire NFL with 1,660 yards passing. CJ Stroud has 9 touchdowns and 1 interception on the year. That's crazy. 1 turnover in your first 6 games in the NFL is unbelievable. He's 3-3. Like, he looks like the best rookie quarterback already. And you're like, whoa. Houston got the right one. I thought it was maybe going to be Anthony Richardson. I liked Bryce Young. In fact, I thought the guy who was going to struggle the most early on was CJ Stroud. I could not have been more wrong. CJ Stroud looks incredible. And, man, what a great job they're doing coaching. They're doing a great job working with him. And his processing level is incredible. He's just awesome, man. I love CJ Stroud. Finally, the last team to talk about today, the Tennessee Titans are 2-4. And they got the right coach, Mike Vrabel, I think. I really like him. He puts together a good defense every year. They play hard for him. But the way the team is built is really the problem. This offense is awful to watch. Quarterback is a problem. Their quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. Do you realize Ryan Tannehill's got 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the year? All bad. It's terrifying. They need to rebuild in Tennessee, in my opinion. I'm not sure. You could maybe sign Kirk Cousins this offseason, but that's not going to solve everything you got going wrong in Tennessee. They need a full rebuild. They need a lot of stuff to happen, honestly, in Tennessee. Their offensive line is a mess. Quarterback is, oh my God, it's so bad. So, I don't know. Tennessee, they're 2-4. The year is over. Maybe you need a new general manager. I think Mike Vrabel is awesome. The problem is if you bring in a rookie quarterback, is Mike Vrabel the right coach to work with a rookie quarterback? I don't think so, right? I love Mike Vrabel, and I think Tennessee likes Mike Vrabel. No disrespect for him. But given his track record with quarterbacks and hiring offensive coordinators, if you do draft a quarterback in Tennessee, you also need to get a new head coach. Mike Vrabel is not the guy I want working with Cameron Ward or Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix or whoever else, Drake May, whoever ends up being the quarterback next year in Tennessee. If it's not a veteran quarterback, you need to bring in a new head coach, in my opinion. Even though I love Mike Vrabel. I respect him a ton. He's a really great coach, and he's going to land on his feet if he wants. He can have a job tomorrow as a defensive coordinator. Maybe Mike Vrabel's the next Patriots head coach. I never thought about that till just now. But either way, Tennessee, they're 2-4, and I think the year is lost for them. All right, guys. That's the show. Wow. How long was that? I have no idea. I don't even want to look. It's been very long, I'm sure. I feel like I went way longer than a minute on each NFL team, but I love you. I appreciate you. I got a lot of work to do today, so I gotta start editing this, get it out. I love you. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk later. Bam, we are